Welcome, Fantasizers. Thank you for joining in on another episode of Your Big Fat Fantasy, your BFF. I am your host, Nicholas Logan.
Anthony Bravo, coming to you live from beautiful Granada Hills, California.
Yes, sir. And today we're going to start it off with the preseason 2 stars of the week. Last episode we did the week 1. So this week we're going to bring you guys new players with some people to look at. They're young players, 1 year, 2 year players. Just people you can get later in drafts that could have some fantasy relevant, whether that's early on right away in the season or a little later on in the season. I'm going to start it off with Isaiah Likely, the tight end 2 on the Baltimore Ravens, playing behind Mark Andrews. But the Ravens go with the 2 tight end set. You're going to see a lot of fantasy relevance there in Isaiah Likely, who's just been on an absolute tear this preseason. In preseason week 1, he had 4 catches for 44 yards, which isn't too impressive. But week 2 is when he really took off. 8 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. Underdog has him as the tight end 27. He's going within the last 3 to 5 rounds of drafts, just depending on if someone wants to try to snipe you early. But if you can get him later on, especially in redraft leagues, I believe he's going to have a lot of fantasy relevance. We talked about it when we did the tier list. The Ravens really don't have a wide receiver 2, but Isaiah Likely is going to be their tight end 2, and he will, I believe, will have a lot of targets even early on in the season.
Yep, especially next to Mark Andrews, there's a lot of potential for big fantasy points, big fantasy weeks for Isaiah Likely for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna start with my first preseason sleeper, Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis, one of the more popular receivers after his breakout performance in the playoffs last year. Week 2 preseason, he had 2 receptions for 47 yards and a touchdown. He only played, the first couple of snaps of the game, but the reports say he should be getting steady and reliable targets. Stephon Diggs, he's gonna be double covered a lot, so Gabe Davis should be seeing a lot of single coverage. And I've been hearing the coaches trust him a lot. A couple of weeks ago they were saying he's the best pass catcher in the scrimmage. And yeah, the sky's the limit for Gabe Davis. I was a little lower on him than everyone else, but I'm starting to open my eyes, starting to see that he's definitely has a chance to be a big fantasy player this season.
Yeah, I'm a Gabe Davis believer as well. That's why I traded for him after that big game. Look for Gabe Davis. Going to be the wide receiver 2 in Buffalo. And talking about another wide receiver 2, next up on my preseason week 2 star, that's going to be Nico Collins, wide receiver for the Houston Texans. Last week he had 4 catches for 48 yards and a touchdown. I know it's not too impressive, but his touchdown was pretty impressive. If you haven't seen the video, Texans wide receiver room wide open. It's going to be Brandon Cooks. Then it's going to be Nico Collins getting the most target share over there. Sleeper has him as the wide receiver 69. Underdog has him as the wide receiver 67. Going around the 12th round, 14th round in those drafts. So look out for Nico Collins. He can be your 5th, 6th receiver. You're grabbing it. He might have just absolutely breakout stuff this season. So look out for Nico Collins. Circle him late in drafts.
Definitely on the breakout radar is Nico Collins. I'm going to go with the running back for my second preseason sleeper. It's going to be Kenny Gainwell. Had 11 rushes, 46 yards, and a touchdown in week 2 of preseason. You got Miles Sanders already dealing with an injury. Gainwell, one of the top handcuffs to have. He's a great pass catcher. Expect the Eagles to run committee this year. They ran one last year with the 3 same backs they have, Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, and Kenneth Gainwell. And it's funny because Kenneth Gainwell actually ended up outscoring Miles Sanders last year in PPR formats. Gainwell finished as RB42, and Sanders was finished as RB44 in PPR format. So Kenny Gainwell, definitely get that handcuff, man. Especially if you have Miles Sanders, you need him.
Yeah.
You need him.
I'm drafting Kenneth Gainwell 4 or 5 rounds later than I'm drafting Miles Sanders. So.
For sure.
So. Another person I'm going to keep in the wide receivers, my last preseason week 2 star. Probably a name you haven't heard much of, Lance McCutcheon, wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams. Probably not a lot of fantasy potential early on, but just keep your eyes on him for week 3 of the preseason. In week 1, he had 5 catches for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns. And week 2, he had 5 more catches for 96 yards, no touchdowns, but he did lose a crucial fumble, so that kind of hurts him a little bit. But right now, he's leading the NFL in receiving yards this preseason. He's tied for first in touchdowns, and he's 8th in catches. So the Rams, I know they have Cooper Kupp, they have Allen Robinson, the wide receiver 3. It's kind of up for grabs. Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell. But if Lance McCutcheon can continue to put on a show, especially going into the last week of preseason, someone you could maybe just get in the last 2 rounds, just keep him on your bench and just hope for a breakout game, or a guy to even keep your eyes on early on in that waiver wire. Of course, if he does make the roster and has all it takes is one big week from someone like that to for everyone to put a waiver claim in for him. So Lance McCutcheon, just keep an eye on him. Yeah.
Went off against my Chargers too, so that's very sad to see. But third and final player for my preseason sleepers is going to be my boy Josh Palmer. Josh Palmer is a nice little flex player to have on your squad. Could be a nice little bye week fill-in. The other 2 players I mentioned, Gainwell and Davis, have a little bit more fantasy relevance than Josh Palmer. I don't really see Josh Palmer, being a top wide receiver, but you never know. His value could skyrocket if anything happens to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. He's a wide receiver too in the team, and he beat out Guyton for the 3rd spot on the depth chart last year. So just know, man, if anything happens to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, God forbid, Josh Palmer is that man.
Yeah, so just look out for those 6 players we named. We'll do one more of these for the last week of preseason. Of course, we're going to bring you guys new players, different players, and also just remind you guys what these other guys have been doing, prior to week 3. Just keep your eyes on them going into your drafts this season. And that's going to bring us to our next segment on the show. We'll have a few questions, I guess, fantasy questions that we kind of
big fantasy questions of the year.
Yeah, that we kind of brought to each other's attentions, and we have the questions, we have the answers. So the first question is 2 guys that I like a lot, 2 guys I drafted last year in my dynasty league, DeVonta Smith and Jaylen Waddle.
Bama boys.
Yeah, both went to Bama. They both have very similar situations. Yeah, exactly.
NFL situations.
Yeah, going into their second year in the NFL. Last year, they were both rookies, and they were both the wide receiver 1 on their team. Now, this year, their second season, they're looking like the wide receiver 2 on their team. DeVonta Smith now has A.J. Brown. Jaylen Waddle now has Tyreek Hill. Just 2 superstar wide receivers, 2 guys that had fantasy relevance the last few seasons, going early in a lot of drafts. So now in their second year,
both also have running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Quarterbacks that like to get on the ground and run.
Exactly. So just very similar situations. We're going to show you guys some stats here. I'll start it off. Last year, we're going to start with DeVonta Smith first and his situation in Philadelphia going into year 2. Last year, he was the wide receiver 29 in PPR leagues, averaged 10.9 fantasy points per game. That's because he had 916 receiving yards, 5 touchdowns on 64 receptions. He also had a 2.16 yards per route ran, which was 15th in the league. And he had a 22.1% target share, ranked 24th in the league. So very good numbers for a rookie wide receiver, especially when he had Jalen Hurts throwing on the ball with some accuracy issues last season. Was really the main wide receiver on that team. There was no wide receiver 2. Quez Watkins was the second best wide receiver on that team in terms of fantasy. But he was the 61st ranked wide receiver, so no fantasy relevance. He only had 647 yards, 1 touchdown, and 43 receptions. So now DeVonta Smith's going to be in that wide receiver 2 spot because they did bring in A.J. Brown. Last year, A.J. Brown did miss 4 games, but he still had 869 yards, 5 touchdowns on 63 receptions. That was good for 13.9 fantasy points per game. He had a 2.7 yards per route ran. That was good for 7th in the league on a 27% target share whenever he was out on the field. So that was 9th in the league. So DeVonta Smith 15th in routes and yards per route ran. AJ Brown 7th. DeVonta Smith 24th in target share. AJ Brown 9th. So two guys in the top 25. Now they're joining each other's team. Obviously, a lot of targets are going to be, shared amongst the two. But their yards per route ran, that's just the stat that a lot of people are looking at in terms of receivers, especially in fantasy relevance. Just a very good stat to be looking at on how you can determine a player's fantasy value. Right now, DeVonta Smith, Underdog has him as the 39th ranked wide receiver going around the 6th round. And this is a guy who was the 29th last year. And he would be a lot higher if he was the wide receiver one still. If AJ Brown's not in Philadelphia, DeVonta Smith's ADP is gonna be way better than 39th. Why would it? But because of that, people think he's gonna fade off. They don't think the yards are gonna be there, the touchdowns aren't gonna be there. But for me, I personally think it's gonna open up the field way more for him. Now, games last year, opposing teams were going in trying to look for DeVonta Smith. This is the guy where our defense need to kind of gravitate towards him, put 2-man coverage on him, put our best corner on him. Now he has AJ Brown there, take a lot of pressure off of him. He already got a full year in the NFL. He's going to be a lot better. They're already saying he's bulking up, getting faster, better, quicker. And now you bring AJ Brown there to take some of that pressure off of him. I think the field's going to be open way more for him, and I think he's going to be way better than the 39th ranked wide receiver.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure.
And AJ Brown last year, like I said, he missed some games, and even AJ Brown, he was on a team where the second best fantasy wide receiver was Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, who was the 66th ranked wide receiver. So two guys that on teams with no other fantasy relevant wide receivers now joining up. Eagles have one of the best O-lines. They're going to run the ball a lot, but they're also going to pass the ball, and it's going to be to those two guys right there. And also, that's what's going to happen. Actually, it's crazy because the Eagles last year threw the ball the least amount of times in the NFL. Titans threw it the 26th most. So two of the bottom ranked teams in terms of passing the ball. So AJ Brown was already in Tennessee. He's going to an Eagles team with similar kind of offensive scheme. So I think he's just going to have another great fantasy season. And I know DeVonta Smith is as well in his second year. So if I don't know if you want to touch up on that, about DeVonta Smith and AJ Brown.
Yeah, that's for sure gonna be a wide receiver duo to keep your eyes on. DeVonta Smith, is only gonna improve. We're talking about one of 4 wide receivers to ever win the Heisman. So when you have AJ Brown on the other side of the field for you, it just makes everything easier.
Yeah, it does, and that's their situation over there. And like we said, DeVonta Smith has a very similar situation to Jaylen Waddle, his college teammate. Jaylen Waddle now is playing alongside Tyreek Hill, probably one of the fastest wide receiver duos in the league coming into this season.
But you want to talk about target share? Tyreek ranked 16 in target share, and Jaylen Waddle ranked 17th in target share. And amongst targets, Tyreek Hill ranked 7, and Jaylen Waddle ranked 10. So there's probably going to be a little cut into these guys' targets, but there's one thing that we both know is that they produce when they get the ball, man. So both of these wide receiver duos, they're definitely elite, definitely one to keep your eye on. But I don't know. I just feel like I like the Miami Dolphins duo a little better. I feel like Jaylen Waddle can do almost everything DeVonta Smith could do. I just feel like he's a little faster. If you watch highlights on Jaylen Waddle, you see that defense, they can't play man on him. He's too fast. They're forced to play deep, and that could also be dangerous for a shifty receiver like Waddle. He has more room to do his little tricks. He could beat you down deep. There's just so many ways Waddle could beat you. In Alabama, from weeks 4 to 7, Waddle outperformed Smith in yards per route, touchdown per route, and wide receiver rating. So I feel like it kind of went from Alabama trying to show even distribution to their 2 best receivers. And then week 8, Waddle goes down with the ankle injury, and then it's pretty much the DeVonta Smith show. He finished college with a target share of 37.5, which is absolutely insane. He was in the 99th percentile. And honestly, DeVonta Smith, he's generational talent, but I just don't think he would be receiving that kind of workload without the Waddle injury. Um, last year Jaylen Waddle was 4 in route wins, and compared to DeVonta Smith's 43. Waddle was number 7 in route win rate compared to Smith's 65, and he was number 6 in win rate versus man compared to Smith's 61. So I don't know, man. I just feel like the stats are pointing to Jaylen Waddle. DeVonta Smith, I feel like the only stat he ranked above Jaylen Waddle was separation versus man, which is pretty much the separation you get once the catch comes to you. So I feel like his bigger frame may be a reason why he's able to get so much separation when the catch gets to him. But I don't know, man. Like, I just like Waddle more. I see so much more potential in Waddle. And I'm drafting Waddle over Smith.
Yeah, well, one thing that Smith did also have, he was a lot better than Waddle at, was yards per route ran. Waddle 42nd in the league, and like I said, Smith was 15th. So Waddle, he did break the reception record for rookies last year. He had 104 receptions, which is absolutely crazy for a rookie, but the yards per route ran just wasn't there. He's getting a lot of receptions, but for how many yards? 1 yard, negative yards. Smith had 40 less receptions and only 100 less yards. So on average, that's Waddle was giving like maybe 2.25 extra yards per those extra receptions he was getting, and he only had 1 extra touchdown. DeVonta Smith had 1. DeVonta Smith had 5. Waddle had 6. Only 1 more with that many more receptions. So a lot of just little checkdowns to Waddle. But he did finish as the wide receiver 13 because of all those receptions he was getting. Yeah. And like you mentioned, they're both in Bama together. They're used to being in a system where they're sharing targets with top receivers. Yeah. So they're in year 2, they're only going to get better. They're both top 25 last year as rookies in target percentage, which is crazy. That means they were the main focus on their team's offense.
As rookies.
Yeah, as rookies. Yeah. And now you're bringing in an A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith case, a Tyreek Hill, and Jaylen Waddle's case. The field just can be opened up for these guys. And even, like I said, Waddle was 13th last year in PPR. Right now, he's the wide receiver 17th, going in about the 4th round. So he's even dropped down from what he did last year. Why? Because Tyreek Hill's there. Yeah. Will he be the 17th? I think he'll still be around the 13th, even higher. Yeah, if anything, sure. I think the field's he's going to get the same amount, maybe less receptions, but the touchdowns will be open more. The yards will be open more. I mean, if you can put Tyreek Hill on offense, who Tyreek Hill's never had another guy next to him. We talked about that. He's had Travis Kelce, but not another wide receiver that next to him like that. A.J. Brown, the same thing. He's never had another wide receiver next to him. Yeah. Now these guys are teaming up, and I think they're going to just all 4 of those guys can all finish as wide receiver 12 to like around the 12 to 15, wide receiver 1, fringe wide receiver 2 range. Like I think I have them beating their ADP. I mean, Tyreek Hill is just a phenomenal athlete, wide receiver 6 last year, 17.4 fantasy points per game, just absolutely crazy. But
I feel like their organizations did kind of they try to put them in a similar situation as they were in Bama and Jalen Hurts.
He knew, and Tua was the Bama quarterback, so now it's like it's a whole lot of Bama going on in Philadelphia and Miami.
But in the NFL now.
Yeah, and also like we mentioned how A.J. Brown was on a run first team, now he's on the Eagles, who was a run first team last season. That's the same thing with Tyreek Hill. He went to a pass first team. Chiefs threw the ball the second most in the league last year. Dolphins were number 8. So now they're just gonna throw the ball a lot more. You just brought Tyreek Hill in. Yeah. So they went from similar situations on their old teams to pretty much the same situation. I mean, it's crazy to think about how similar like for Waddle and Smith and Brown and Hill, their situations are. Like it's gonna be fun to watch this season. Both those teams, and I know both of those teams have quarterback issues with Jalen Hurts and Tua,
which both have something to prove.
Yeah, they both have something to prove, and this is their year. The weapons are there. The O-lines have improved a lot for these guys. So, yeah, but we are going to talk a little bit about Tua.
Yeah, Tua. Next question, pretty much I feel like a lot of fantasy players are asking, is Tua going to be a QB1 this year? What do you think?
QB1, I say he can get in there. If not 15, I think he's like going as a 17th QB or 18th, but
Yeah.
I can see him beating that for sure. I like Tua for this season. Honestly, this is his chance to prove that he's an NFL ready
Yeah,
star
for sure.
quarterback.
Let me just provide some context, because like I feel like people are always saying, "Oh, Tua's already a bust. Like, let's get another quarterback." Let me just provide you guys with some context. Rookie year, Tua was coming off a hip injury that he suffered in Bama, so he didn't see his first taste of NFL action until week 6, and even in week 6, he only played like the final seconds. So, pretty much Tua's first start was week 8 of 2020. Week 8 through week 10, Dolphins go 3-0. Week 11, Tua suffers a fourth quarter thumb injury, and then he's replaced by Ryan Fitzpatrick. Then the Dolphins lose week 11. You can make an argument that Tua would have been 4-0 had he not gotten injured. Week 13, Tua comes back and beats the Bengals. Week 14, he loses to the eventual Super Bowl champs, Kansas City Chiefs. And then he beats the Patriots week 15, beats the Raiders week 16, and then week 17, he loses to the Bills. So right now, Tua's 6-3 could have easily went 7-2 had he not gotten injured. And I'll take that from a rookie quarterback all day. Now we're going to fast forward to last year. Tua beats the Patriots week 1. Then he gets his ribs destroyed week 2. He's out, and then he's out until week 5. So by week 5, the Dolphins are already 1-4. He goes on a 3-game losing streak, and then they sit him week 9. Week 10, he comes off the bench, leads the Dolphins to a comeback victory, and then that's when they go on the 7th-game winning streak before they lose on week 17. So right now, as we speak, Tua is currently 14-6 in games where he's played at least one quarter of NFL football. And if you ask me, that has quarterback one potential written all over it.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with the new upgrades at O-line, his new upgraded weapon at receiver, like they literally give him all the weapons to be successful. So I'm expecting Tua to be a quarterback one regardless. And if he's not, then he sucks.
Yeah, they brought in a bunch of running backs too for him. So I mean, a team that threw the ball a lot, like we said, 8th in the league. Now they have running backs to kind of lean on. They brought in 3 new running backs, but yeah, I'm not that high on Tua. There's a lot of quarterbacks I would get. If I'm gonna draft, me personally, if I'm drafting Tua, I already have a quarterback.
He's like your backup.
He'll be like my backup. And then if he can, like I said, slip into that quarterback 1 range, that'd be perfect. I mean,
then you'll have like 2 quarterback ones if you already drafted.
Yeah,
the first
like last year I did the same thing with Joe Burrow. I drafted Stafford first, and then later on I got Burrow. But they both were top 8 or 7 in as the QBs last year in fantasy. So I would just need like a little insurance if I'm getting Tua. Me personally, I wouldn't draft him as my main starting quarterback going into the season.
It's a little bit of a risk. I understand that.
But in terms of like the NFL level, I mean, he looks ready. Like you said, and the stats are there. The record shows. So
he has all the tools, man. I'm pulling for him.
So am I. Yeah. But that brings us to our next segment on the show. Our last segment. Another question fantasy players are asking is which rookie running back will have like a lot of fantasy relevance this year? Obviously, it's Breece Hall's going early in drafts, 3rd, 4th round in redraft leagues and underdog best ball leagues.
We're talking about like with sleeper.
There's because right now obviously we know Kenneth Walker, we know James Cook, Rashad White's been getting high, Isaiah Spiller. But one guy that, I mean, they're all being talked about and going, early, mid rounds in drafts. But my favorite rookie running back, and I liked him even before this preseason, hasn't really done much this preseason, but I still like him a lot, is Tyler Allgeier. He was the 5th round pick, 151st overall. There were 11 running backs drafted before him, 11. And he's now in a situation in Atlanta where he's might be the main guy at running back, I believe. I mean, obviously it's Cordell Patterson, but he's not going to run a lot. They're going to use him more.
They're going to try to ease Allgeier into that role.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're taking it slow with him. And obviously the Falcons are going to be throwing the ball a lot. They're going to be down a lot in games, I believe. The O-line, you mentioned it before, how they're bottom in the league in O-line. So that kind of hurts Allgeier. But if he can get those goal line touches, and if he's the main back and they're feeding him as a rookie, and he has the potential just to be a breakout star. I think I'm not saying maybe a running back one out of all the running backs, but out of rookie running backs, I think he has out of maybe Breece Hall will be in there. I would throw in Tyler Allgeier, and then I think he's gonna be in the top 3 among rookie running backs this year in fantasy relevance. I think he'll be an RB2 overall, top 15, top 20 running back this year. I think it'll be Hall, Dameon Pierce, and Allgeier as my 3 favorite running backs this year as rookies. They all have the backfield wide open for them. Other guys, like we said, James Cook, Kenneth Walker, they're kind of the number 2 backs. It's going to take a while for them to get started. Like you said, Algiers they're going to ease him into that role, and he could be getting fantasy relevance, I believe, as early as the first couple weeks of the season. All it takes is one good game in the NFL for him to be that guy. And if you look at Allgeier and Breece Hall, who was the 36th overall pick, Allgeier 151st overall pick, their college numbers are so similar. We talk about the similarities between Waddle and Smith. This whole show should just be called like the similarities, because the similarities between Hall and Allgeier is crazy. They're both 220 pounds. Breece Hall 2 inches taller than Allgeier. But if you look at what they did in college, Breece Hall last year, 1,472 rushing yards. That was 6th in college football. Tyler Allgeier, 1,414 rushing yards. That was 8th in college football. And then we go to rushing attempts. Breece Hall, 253 rushing attempts, 10th in college football. Right behind him at 11, Tyler Allgeier, 249 rushing attempts. And they were both tied first in touchdowns. They both had 20 touchdowns last year. So right around the same rank in college football. Obviously, Breece Hall played in a little tougher conference. He was in the Big 12. I know, Tyler Allgeier over at BYU is in the FBS Independence Conference. So a lot of competition difference. I know that people talk about in college, well, who are these guys playing? But either way, just watch Allgeier's highlights. You're watching them. The guy's just an absolute beast. Obviously, I think Breece Hall is a little bit on the receiving end better than Allgeier. But, Tyler Allgeier is coming into a great situation. A guy who's going very late in drafts. I'm drafting him a lot, even in
his ADP is 150.
Yeah, and I'm drafting him a lot. 150? Yeah.
150 is mid-13th round is what they're projecting him.
Yeah, and I'm drafting him in, underdog leagues. I think, there's a thing on underdog where it shows you, your percentage of who's drafting. I draft him, 75% of the time. Because he's, my 4th or 5th running back. By that time, I already have, 3-4 running back. Yeah. Let me get him, If he's your 3rd, 4th, 5th best running back on your team, you could be happy.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine starting him, playing him. So
he definitely showed the workhorse role in his final 2 seasons at BYU. He had 2,731 rushing yards and 36 touchdowns in just his last 2 seasons. So at his ADP at 150, I'm taking him way earlier than that. Only thing is, I don't feel like he shows the flashiest moves, but I see that he's a hard hitter, and if he's gonna get goal line touches, all you need to do is be a hard hitter, and you're in the end zone. You know? So I think he'll break a lot of tackles, definitely, and he's definitely workhorse role potential.
Yeah, he went almost over 100 picks later, and in the
similar stats
in the rookie draft as Breece Hall, and he's going 100 plus picks in fantasy drafts. So it's and like I said, the numbers are similar. So just someone to keep your eye on. Tyler Allgeier, running back for the Atlanta Falcons. There's just been some questions of what he's doing in training camp, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Yeah, definitely not. He'll be fine. I'll see him by at least week 6. He'll be getting a lot of touches.
Yeah, I believe so too. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just 3 questions we wanted to come at you guys that we talked about, discussed. Like we said, you see the similarities in all these players we mentioned. Just guys to keep an eye on, guys that are going to break their ADP once the season's ready to go. We named about, 6 players today, and I think they're all going to break their fantasy. Yeah, but with A.J. Brown and Tyreek, I think all these guys will break their ADPs, and just ignore the rumors, ignore the ADPs. If you like these guys, get them. They're going to be stars this year. And if we're wrong, then we apologize in advance. But if we're right, we better get some of that cut in your fantasy winnings.
For sure. And yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video. We're still looking to give out that jersey. We're still looking to get to 200 subscribers. I've been trying to be active as much as I can on the TikTok, so just keep your eye on that. Just keep your eye on all the socials. Give us a follow, give us a comment, give us a sub, do whatever you gotta do, blow us up, and yeah, man, we're here to give you fantasy advice.
Yeah, and we're gonna probably in our next episode we'll let you guys know what our video schedule will be once the season starts. Right now, I know we're putting about like 1-2 videos out per week. But we're going to be trying to get at least 2 or 3 videos out to you guys when the season starts, just to keep you guys up to date. But we'll give you guys a schedule in the next episode. Like he said, just like, comment, subscribe. Get ready for that jersey giveaway. And just thanks for sticking with us, guys. Appreciate it.
Get ready for that podcast, too.
Oh, yeah.
Podcast is coming very soon.
Yeah, Spotify and Apple. We'll once it's up, we'll put all the links in the description, and we'll
go from there.
Yeah. So just thanks again, guys.
Thank you for the support. Love you.
And we'll see you on the next one.